My beloved child, stop scrolling for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not meant to pass before your eyes unnoticed. Something is waiting for you inside this message, something connected to last night, something your heart may have already sensed before your mind could understand it. There is a reason you felt restless. There is a reason a certain thought returned to you again and again. There is a reason your spirit seemed to pause in the middle of ordinary moments, as though an invisible hand was asking you to listen more closely. Do not dismiss that feeling. Do not hurry away from this. Your soulmate is carrying an explanation, and what happened last night has brought them closer to a truth they can no longer hide from themselves. Last night was not ordinary for them. It may have looked ordinary from the outside. The room may have been quiet. The lights may have been low. Their phone may have rested beside them. The world may have continued as though nothing important was happening. But inside their heart, a storm of honesty had begun. A memory of you entered their thoughts without warning, and once it arrived, it refused to leave. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to focus on something else. They told themselves that perhaps they were only tired, only emotional, only remembering you because the night was quiet. Yet the deeper they pushed the feeling away, the stronger it became. Something inside them whispered your name without sound. That is why this message has found you now. Pause here, beloved, because there is more beneath the surface than you have been allowed to see. Your soulmate did not simply think about you last night. They came face to face with a truth they had been avoiding. A truth about the way your presence changed them. A truth about the emptiness they feel when they imagine moving forward without you. A truth about the courage they have lacked, the words they have delayed, and the moment they feared might never come again. For some time, they have carried two versions of themselves. One version pretended to be calm, independent, and unaffected. That version continued with life, smiled when expected, answered questions, made plans, and acted as though everything was under control. But another version lived quietly beneath that surface. That hidden version missed you in places no one else could reach. It compared every conversation to the depth they once felt with you. It noticed the silence where your voice should have been. It wondered whether you had moved on, whether you had forgotten, whether the door between you had closed forever. Last night, those two versions collided. And now they need to explain. Do not skip what comes next, because the explanation is not what you think. It is not only about where they were, who they spoke to, or what they did. It is about what happened inside them when an unexpected moment forced them to stop pretending. There was a conversation, a sign, or a sudden realization that touched a place in their heart they had kept guarded. Someone may have said something that reminded them of you. A song may have played. A photograph may have appeared. A familiar place may have brought back an emotion they thought they had buried. Whatever the outer moment was, the inner meaning was unmistakable. They realized that you were not simply part of their past. You were still part of their becoming. This frightened them at first, not because the feeling was wrong, but because it was real. Real feelings demand real decisions. Real love asks a person to stop hiding behind excuses. It asks them to become honest about what they want, what they regret, and what they are willing to risk. Your soulmate has spent too long standing near the doorway of truth without walking through it. Last night, something changed. The door did not close. It opened wider. They saw themselves clearly. They saw the ways they had delayed. They saw the ways fear had spoken louder than love. They saw moments when they could have reached out but chose silence. They remembered words they could have said but held back. They thought about times when you needed clarity and received uncertainty instead. And for the first time in a long while, they did not defend themselves. They did not invent reasons. They simply felt the weight of what their hesitation may have cost. That weight followed them through the night. You may wonder why heaven would reveal this to you now. It is because your heart has carried questions in silence. You have wondered whether the connection was real. You have questioned whether they ever felt the same depth. You have asked yourself why someone who cared could become distant, confused, or slow to act. You have replayed certain moments, trying to find the exact place where everything shifted. But beloved, not every distance begins with a lack of love. Sometimes distance begins when love awakens something a person does not yet know how to hold. Your soulmate felt more than they expected. You stirred something in them that could not remain casual. You made them imagine a future, and that future exposed every unresolved fear they had carried from the past. They feared failing you. They feared being fully known. They feared that if they gave you their heart, they might lose control of the life they had carefully arranged. So instead of moving closer, they hesitated. Instead of explaining, they became quiet. Instead of admitting how deeply you affected them, they tried to reduce the meaning of the connection. But truth does not become smaller simply because someone refuses to speak it. Last night, truth returned. It returned in the stillness. It returned in the memory of your eyes, your voice, your patience, or the way you once understood something about them without needing a long explanation. It returned when they compared the comfort they felt with you to the emptiness of pretending they did not care. It returned when they imagined never having another chance to tell you what was real. And that thought shook them. Something huge is waiting for you in this revelation, because the fear that rose inside them was not the fear of being with you. It was the fear of losing you permanently. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine a future where you no longer waited, no longer wondered, no longer looked back. They pictured you giving your heart to peace. They pictured you being loved with certainty by someone who did not hesitate. They pictured themselves hearing about your happiness from a distance, knowing they had once been given an opportunity they were too afraid to accept. That image became unbearable. It revealed the truth more clearly than any sign before it. They do not want to be a memory in your story. They want to be part of what comes next. Yet there is something they must explain before they can move toward you honestly. Last night brought more than realization. It also brought a moment of decision. They may have said something unexpected. They may have ended a conversation, withdrawn from a situation, confessed something to someone they trust, or finally admitted aloud that their heart is still connected to you. What happened was not dramatic in the way the world measures drama. There may have been no crowd, no grand gesture, no visible sign. But spiritually and emotionally, a line was crossed. They spoke a truth they had only whispered to themselves. And once spoken, it could not be taken back. Someone heard them admit that you still matter. Someone saw the emotion in their face when your name entered the conversation. Someone may have asked them a simple question: why have you not told them? That question stayed with them. They may have laughed nervously or changed the subject, but inside, the answer rose immediately. They had not told you because they feared your response. They feared you might no longer believe them. They feared you might see their timing as too late. They feared that the silence they created had built a wall too high to cross. But the deeper truth is this: they also feared that once they spoke honestly, their life would have to change. Love is not only a feeling. It is a direction. And last night, they finally understood that continuing in the opposite direction was hurting them more than taking the risk of moving toward you. Stay until the end of this message, because the most important part has not yet been revealed. There is an explanation forming inside them, and it is connected to something you may have misunderstood. You may have thought their silence meant indifference. You may have believed their distance meant they had chosen someone else, another path, or a life where you no longer belonged. But last night exposed the emptiness of those assumptions. Their silence was not peaceful. It was heavy. Their distance did not bring freedom. It brought restlessness. Their attempts to move on did not erase the connection. They only made the connection more obvious. Every step away created another reminder of what they were leaving behind. And now they can no longer ignore it. Beloved, your soulmate is not only thinking about what happened between you. They are thinking about who they became because of you. They are remembering how your presence made them want to be more honest, more stable, more open, more courageous. You reflected something back to them that no one else had reflected in the same way. You saw both their strength and their hidden wounds. You did not only admire the version they showed the world. You sensed the version beneath it. That kind of recognition is rare. It is also terrifying to someone who has spent years hiding parts of themselves. Last night, they realized that losing you would not only mean losing a person they care about. It would mean losing the one connection that invited them to become who they were meant to be. This is why their explanation is urgent. Not urgent in fear. Urgent in truth. They know that time has been moving. They know your heart has been healing. They know you may no longer be standing in the same emotional place where they left you. And this has awakened something inside them. They understand that love cannot be postponed forever and still expect to be waiting unchanged. They feel the window of silence closing. They know words must come. But before they speak to you, they are searching for the courage to say everything, not only the convenient parts. They do not want to offer a half-truth. They do not want to reach out with a vague message that leaves you more confused. They know you deserve clarity. They know that if they return to your life, they cannot return with the same habits that caused pain before. This is the deeper work happening now. Last night, they may have written something and deleted it. They may have opened your conversation and stared at the empty space. They may have typed your name into a search bar, looked at an old photograph, reread a message, or listened again to something connected to you. Their fingers may have hovered over the place where one simple action could have ended months of silence. But they stopped. Not because they changed their mind. Because the words suddenly felt too small. How could they explain everything in one message? How could they tell you that your absence has been teaching them? How could they admit that the person they tried to become without you never felt entirely true? How could they ask for a new beginning without pretending the past did not happen? These questions held them still. And yet, this stillness was different from before. Before, they used silence to escape. Last night, they used silence to prepare. That difference matters. You may not see the movement yet, but movement has begun. Heaven is not asking you to chase them. You are not being told to abandon your boundaries, ignore your wisdom, or accept uncertainty without question. This message is not a command to wait helplessly. It is a revelation meant to bring peace to the part of you that has wondered whether your love was invisible. It was not invisible. It reached them. It changed them. And last night, the change became impossible for them to deny. Still, beloved, there is a detail they are afraid to tell you. This is where the explanation becomes more personal. Something happened that caused them to understand how deeply their choices may have affected you. They may have heard about something you said, noticed a change in the way you carry yourself, or sensed that your energy was no longer reaching toward them in the same way. Perhaps they saw that you were becoming stronger. Perhaps they realized you were no longer waiting for signs. Perhaps someone told them that you had been moving forward, rebuilding your peace, and learning to choose yourself. That realization did not make them angry. It humbled them. They saw that while they were taking time to understand their feelings, you were learning how to live without their answers. They understood that your heart could not remain suspended forever. And for the first time, they asked themselves a painful question: what if I finally become ready after they no longer need me? The question broke something open. Not a place of despair, but a place of honesty. They understood that love is not proven by how deeply it is felt in secret. Love is proven by the courage to honor it openly. They may have felt loyal to you in their heart, but if you could not see that loyalty, then you were left carrying uncertainty. They may have imagined a future with you, but if they never shared that future, then you were forced to assume you were not part of it. Last night, they saw the difference between private emotion and living truth. That is what they need to explain. They want to tell you that what looked like indifference was often inner conflict. What looked like forgetting was often avoidance. What looked like confidence was often fear wearing a calm face. They want to tell you that they thought distance would give them clarity, but distance only magnified your importance. They want to tell you that there were nights when they almost reached out. There were mornings when your name was the first thought in their mind. There were moments when they heard good news and wished you were the first person they could tell. There were moments when life became difficult and they remembered the peace they felt when you listened. They want to tell you that your absence did not remove you from their heart. It revealed how deeply you were rooted there. Do not skip this next part, because there is a spiritual layer to what happened. Last night, they experienced something they could not explain through logic alone. Perhaps they dreamed of you. Perhaps they woke at an unusual hour with your presence heavy in their mind. Perhaps they felt drawn to a place, object, message, or memory connected to you. The experience may have seemed small, but it carried unusual emotional force. It felt like being called back to unfinished truth. They may not use spiritual language for it. They may call it coincidence, nostalgia, or a strange moment. But their soul understood something their mind had resisted. The connection is asking for honesty. Not fantasy. Not endless waiting. Not vague hope. Honesty. They cannot continue carrying your name in silence while pretending their heart has moved somewhere else. They cannot continue asking the universe for signs while ignoring the clear responsibility to act. They cannot continue waiting for the perfect moment, because last night taught them that perfect moments do not arrive fully formed. Courage creates them. And now courage is being asked of them. My child, you have also been transformed through this connection. You are not the same person who first entered it. You have learned the difference between love and self-abandonment. You have learned that compassion does not require you to accept confusion forever. You have learned that your intuition deserves respect. You have learned that being deeply connected to someone does not mean you must ignore your own needs. This growth is part of why the energy has changed. Your soulmate can feel that you are no longer available for half-hearted words. They know that if they come forward, they must come with truth. They know they cannot simply say, "I miss you," and expect everything to heal. They must explain what they feared. They must acknowledge what they delayed. They must show what has changed. And most importantly, they must reveal what happened last night that made them decide silence could no longer continue. Something huge is waiting behind that final detail. They have not yet told anyone the entire story. Even the person who may have witnessed their realization does not know the full depth of it. There was a private moment after the conversation ended, after the room became quiet, after they were alone again. In that moment, they made a decision. It may not yet have become an action, but inside their heart, it became a vow. They decided that if they were given one more chance to speak to you, they would not waste it. They would not hide behind casual words. They would not pretend you were only a friend, only a memory, or only someone they once knew. They would tell you what your presence meant. They would tell you why they pulled away. They would tell you what they finally understand. But there is one more thing. One part of last night frightened them more than anything else. It was not the thought of rejection. It was not the thought of admitting they were wrong. It was not even the thought of changing their life. It was a message, a realization, or a truth that made them believe you may already know more than they have ever told you. They began wondering whether you had felt the same moment from a distance. Whether you woke suddenly. Whether your heart became heavy without explanation. Whether their name crossed your mind at the exact time they were thinking of you. They wondered if the connection had spoken to both of you at once. And when they looked at the time, noticed what was in front of them, or saw the sign that appeared in that exact moment, they froze. Because the sign was not random. It was connected to something only you and they would understand. Something from the beginning. something they had almost forgotten. Something they once promised themselves they would tell you if it ever appeared again. Last night, it appeared. And now your soulmate must explain why, after seeing it, they whispered a sentence into the darkness that could change everything between you. They believed no one heard them. But heaven did. And the words they spoke were your name, followed by a promise they are now preparing to keep.